Well, here, let me make sure comments and stuff is working. I'll tell you what, welcome, Tori. Let's see, Sabina. Let's see, maybe you can tell me for doing research, if you can just put in what you have typically done. If you really aren't using AI for research, that's totally cool. If you're using ChatGPT, stuff like that, or really you've used all kinds of different tools, go ahead and just drop it in the chat, and I will try to do the same. So let's see, I have done, let's see if I can do this. It's tricky. Let me try and do it this way. Good to know. Okay, cool. Oh, no, I did a 4. I take that back. Okay, cool. Okay, that seems to be working. So, Sabine, welcome. You're absolutely in the right place. You're just getting started. So Tori tried a little bit of ChatGPT, cool. And good. Well, here, let me go ahead and start to get us rolling. I know we just have a few folks right now, but let me just tell you a little bit about what I want to do and where I want to go. So, I think this is related to a course. And so this is a free class, this one piece of what we do in AI for customer research. And I wanted to say, we actually, we've been so focused on our clients that I haven't been focusing on getting our class attendance and doing things like social media posts and stuff. So that my loss is your gain. So actually, I've got a code here just over my shoulder. Here, I can probably do it this way. Just get rid of me. So on the lower right there, there's 40 off flash. And so you can, if you're interested, you can get 40 off. Let's see if I can do, oh yeah, now this is working. Cool. So that's the code actually that can let you get a big discount off the class. So I'm delighted to let you go ahead and take advantage. So anyway, that's there. And I wanted to say that generally what we do is we really try to give people some of the core skills. Historically, I've just focused on prompting, but really now we have to make sure you know what how to do projects and these kind of things, the new agent tools, and then we move on to exactly what we're doing here. We're going to do some AI moderation, followed by AI analysis, and actually getting people into more advanced stuff like synthetic users. So just trying to make sure you have exposure to these things, understand what's possible, and really we can tell you our sort of lessons learned of what we've got. So I'll give you a little taste of that today, doing AI moderated interviews. And so, so let's go ahead and get rolling. And if you have any questions, it's actually fun to do this where you all, anything comes up, just go ahead and type a question about really anything about this in the chat. And I'm happy to bring it up and make sure that you all are getting what you need out of this too. So, so very cool. Let me just tell you that generally I wanted to tell you a little bit of the basics of just what is this stuff. I want to show you what it's like, and then just lastly, I can answer any questions you might have about the class and so on. Okay, cool. So let me get us started. So this whole notion of AI moderated interviews has really only been around, 2023. We couldn't really do this, right? So it's a really new kind of tool. So let me just give you a sense. So this is literally the deal. So if you, normally we would have a human, me, being the moderator and having us interviewing someone probably in person or really in this case remotely. And in this tool, what happens is instead of me doing the moderator, the AI is, and I'll show you exactly what that's like. And I think the thing that's different is you all have had lots of exposure to maybe things like user testing is a good example. There's a tool called Verve. There are lots of these that do unmoderated interviews where it's like they ask a question, it records the person's response, goes on to the next one, and I don't have to be there. But the interesting thing about this is it does dynamic follow-on questions. So we can really sort of probe more deeply even though we're not there. And so that's the interesting idea. And it's got lots of properties like we can have 20 interviews going on at the same time. We can have interviews going on in 6 languages or 10. It doesn't really matter. And so I'm going to show you actually Listen from Listen Labs. And I'm also, just to let you know, Outset is another player in this. I've got a couple other examples here. Strela, Herd, Yasna, and UserQ all do this kind of thing. We're actually going to try in class, at least I'll show you. There's a couple others. One that's called Userology. And anyway, I've got one more that I'm going to give you as well. So I'll show you that in a sec. Cool. So the other thing that's kind of cool is because it's got AI in it, it actually helps you to create your interview guide and test questions. So if you're not a researcher by trade, it actually helps a lot to formulate the appropriate questions and lets you sort of set this to the degree you want to either have very specifically, I want you to ask this question and nothing else, or to have you give it a fair bit of latitude. And also, so there are a bunch of tricks in this, like letting it know the subject matter, maybe know some of the acronyms people might use, things like that. And so really what you do is you basically give it, here's your core research questions, sort of tweak the questions, and then you can really select participants and start running the study sort of right away. So I'll just show you, we've got a half an hour, I'm going to talk about some stuff, and even in this half hour, we'll get to building a whole study. That's how fast it can go. So super big picture, why even bother with this cool stuff, even though it's possible? One piece of this is just the incredible speed and scale. So often, today's Wednesday, and good, I just check on my computer. But the deal is that, you could have a stakeholder say, hey, I've got a huge decision to make on Tuesday. What research can you do for me? You're like, oh, man, we could maybe interview 3 or 4 people before Tuesday, but not many more. And with this, I could say, yes, we can test 50 people in 10 languages globally. So kind of that speed and scale is really interesting. The other thing is really reach when we start thinking about this multilingual capability. So we've got a number of social media platforms we work with, and they've historically, not surprisingly, being based in San Francisco, focused a little bit more on English. And so they've tested people more often than not in, say, US and Canada, the UK, Australia. But they've got tons of users around the world. So we did studies for them in German, French, Brazilian Portuguese. We've done things in Thai and Chinese. And so I guess my point is that I am not a proficient speaker of those languages, and yet we're capable of doing this. So it's really interesting that we can be far more inclusive than we were before. And the last thing is that when you actually add it up as a sort of project manager, just because one of the things that is really time consuming is actually, my time is fairly expensive, as is any UX researcher. And so being able to have these happen without using my time, even just to schedule and reschedule and to take notes and to moderate and reschedule, like if I'm not doing any of that, actually the cost can go down quite a bit, right? So I can both scale up and have it be less expensive for my clients. So it's kind of, and I can get them answers faster and be more inclusive. So if this is any good, that's a really helpful thing. So happy for you all to ask what you think, in terms of that once we get going. So just want to say that some of the ways you can do this, I think it is really good for when you're first figuring out an audience and just like, what is it that teenagers in Sweden need? Whatever the case might be. You can do concept testing. So I'm thinking primarily of either just literally a concept, like what if we offered you this, or things like Figma prototypes. It's not good at, you can actually do usability testing as well. I want you to know that in today's world, it's a little different because it records the screen, and it can do this on mobile too, but it's not actually really aware of what's happening on the screen right now. So you can be moderating and say, or I can be describing what I'm doing, like, yeah, I'm doing a talk right now, and I'm looking at the center column. And so it could be recording the screen, but it won't actually ask me questions like, why did I put the titles in pink? Because it's recording it, but it's not kind of seeing it, making sense of it. So, and the other thing I wanted to say is that historically we've done, like, okay, we've got 24 interviews we can do this quarter. We got to get every question we can think of out of these people because this is the one shot we get. With this kind of tool, I can do much more incremental, sort of like tight little questions, and maybe have 3 sets of interviews I do even in a single week just to go after very specific questions. So it can be much more incremental in nature. And anything else? No, I guess I just want to say we definitely, really, really test these things a lot, and we are also giving our AI tools a lot of context. So like when we were doing stuff with scientists that were like wet lab biologists, we wanted to make sure it knew all about the biology that people are typically doing. There were specialized terms, like when you were doing RNA sequencing, I might call it single-seq, which is like single-strand sequencing, and so on. So we actually had to give it a lot of context, so it didn't say like, oh, I see you're doing science. What is that like? It's much more specific and follows what I would really want to have done. And the last thing is, you'll find that if you're always doing back and forth of it speaking and us speaking, or sort of dynamic follow-on questions, it can get tiring for participants. So we do try to mix it up between, say, a multiple choice question and a sort of open-ended question. But the sort of promise here, if this works, and I would argue it really does, is to give you sort of the scale of what a quant study might be like. I can do 100 or 200 of these and have the sort of open-ended sort of why answers be collected as well. So I can get sort of speed and scale. Okay, cool. Anything else I wanted to say? No, if you want to try this yourself, this is actually, I've got this going. I'm going to try this exact experiment on myself. So I just thought you might be curious. And let's actually go ahead and give some stuff a try. Anyone got questions at this point? Maybe I need to show you and you might have more questions. But just jump in anytime and ask anything you want. Okay, cool. So I've got an example here. This is from my course, and so we typically do something that we can sort of share publicly, so and make it easy to sort of recruit people. So in this case, it was like how to use AI in everyday life. And so in this case, like, hey, let's figure out what would be better than anything that's out there now. And so I've got these sort of sample questions from stakeholders, like, well, what have people done with AI recently, and how do they typically use it, and how often in a week, and do they trust it, stuff like that. Okay, so I want to show you that it's reasonably easy to create an experiment out of nothing in these kind of tools. And so our class actually makes studies. That's why I don't know if you can see those. This is Listen Labs here. I've all logged into already. But let me just go ahead and say new study. Okay, and in this particular case, we're sort of doing something where we're just kind of learning what people are needing and sort of how they're working. So that's a really foundational kind of thing. So I'm going to click on this guy here to create a new study. And just I wanted to give you a feel for what this is like. So what it's doing is it's giving us, on the left is sort of a chat interface for what are our questions, what we want to do. And on the right, it's got sort of a draft of a sort of template for doing foundational research. And so let me just go over here, and I'm just going to be a little bit lazy, and I'm just going to grab all this stuff. And I'm actually not going to really pay attention to the questions it asked me here. Who's your target audience? What products? I think we actually are answering that not too bad here. So I'm going to drop this stuff in here and just hit go. And I want you to watch the right column here. Okay, so we're in the first stage of the process of trying to figure out what your questions are going to be for your study. So I just hit go. And in theory, what will happen is it will start to update the stuff on the right as it's thought. So it's got, let's see what's happening here. Yep, so it's busy chugging away. Hopefully it won't, now it's fighting a little bit with my scrolling, so I'll let it just go for a minute here. But what it's doing is actually updating the interview guide based on our major questions. So I don't know if I can, yeah, okay, it's coming around. So you can start to see, there was a question about what would they imagine as their perfect AI assistant. So it's like, imagine you could design your perfect personal assistant. What would that be like? What would be important for you? Right, well, what would help earn your loyalty? Okay. So it's got questions that I think are actually pretty reasonable. Let's just see the start of this. It says, let's see, welcome, thanks for participating. Which of the following have you used in the past 3 months? So things like Claude, okay, cool. How often do you use them? So it's got a multiple choice question. And then tell me about a recent time that you used this. Okay, so that's actually kind of neat. Now, the way this tool works is that you can say, let's see, for example, I think there's some screener questions. So I'm going to say, let's see, I don't need screener questions. Okay, and then you'll just see that it will update stuff on the right accordingly. So we've kind of gone from 0 to a interview guide really fast, right? And then so this is stage 1 where it kind of just tells you here's generally what we're asking, but I'm like, I want to know what these follow-up questions are and what they're talking about. So if I go apply changes, oh yeah, sorry. And then what I want to do is go to the next stage in the process. What it's showing me now is here's what the participant would see, and here's the actual study itself. So that's sort of the details. So let's try and go for one that's got a little more detail just to show you what this is like. It says, walk me through, oh, sorry. Here we go. Let's try this one. Okay, tell me about the most recent time you used AI tool for something personal. What did you need help with? Okay, so this is an open-ended question. Here's the question, so we could change the wording if we feel like it. You can decide how much you want it to follow up. So you can see in this particular tool, you can say I want 2 or 3, or only if they have a short answer. Do I want you to have dynamic follow-up, or just I don't want anything here. I just want you to get the answer. So it gives you a fair bit of flexibility that way. And then you can see here, if I make this a little bigger, that what it's doing, so it's asking for a video answer. So we typically want that so we can see if anyone is trying to just read things off ChatGPT or something like that. But in this case, it says after they answer the question, right, what was the task, what prompted them to use it, and what was the experience, how did the experience go? So, so basically you can guide the tool for how it's going to do follow-up questions. I actually was planning on using the other study, but this is actually kind of interesting. Let's see how it uses the main question and the sub-questions here. Let's see if I can get this going for you. I have this running in another spot on this computer, so I'm not quite sure how it's all going to go down. So just bear with me. Okay, let's see, we can make that a little smaller. Perfect. Okay, let me just try. So what you can do is basically, this is like a preview. Of course, the person in real life wouldn't see this other panel. This is just me being, practicing to study. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so I used AI recently. I went to the market and I got some interesting stuff, and I didn't have an obvious recipe I could use it with, and I knew, we like spicy food, and I was trying to figure out what best to cook. So it was actually, I was trying to make a sort of a custom recipe, and that's how I used, in this case, ChatGPT. Okay, so you can see it immediately gave me a relevant follow-up question, right? That's the sort of value of this kind of thing. So what ingredients did you have that you want to use? Let's see if I can remember. Yeah, so I had a variety of things. I had, I guess, just a lot of greens like chard, and I had sweet potato, things that come sort of later in season at the market. I think I had some peaches, and I'm sorry, pears, and what else did I have? Yeah, so I think those were the kind of just sort of fresh vegetables. Mushrooms as well. Yeah, so it helped me make, in this case, I did something that was sort of a omelette kind of thing with all these things together. And no, it turned out it was really good. And we tried to make it nice and spicy too. Okay, so you can see now it's moving me to the next question. And so you can see it's a fairly natural response. So I can do this. I wanted to show you this example that was sort of like ChatGPT doing the sort of teleprompter text. And you can see it's doing dynamic follow-ons. So this, we went from 0 to having a study going that could be done like internationally in just like a few minutes, right? It's kind of remarkable. So let me actually show you a totally different tool. I'm going to switch to one called Whyser, W-H-Y-S-E-R. Here, I'll just write these down for you so you got them. And by the way, I don't, I work with these tools in my class, and I subscribe to some of these tools, pay for them full price. But we try to share the best tools we can find, and we never get any sort of, we're independent. So if you were to subscribe to these things, it wouldn't change anything for me, and that's the point. I try to make it so we're neutral at Brilliant Experience. Okay, cool. So let's try this one here. This is actually a voice-to-voice tool. So let me see if I can get this going, and hopefully you can hear the tool well enough. I'll try not to make it too scary loud for me, and hopefully my microphone can pick it up for you. Let's give it a try.
I'm glad to see you are back. Is now still a good time to chat?
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of a presentation, but even still, it's a good time to chat. So let's go ahead.
What types of tasks or questions do you usually address with those AI tools during those times?
Oh, I had actually practiced before with this. Hey, can we start from the first question?
Of course. Let's start from the beginning. Can you share how you typically use AI tools in your personal life?
Yeah, I use them for things like cooking, looking up facts. Sometimes I'm using it for things like new exercise routines, or like how to do like running techniques, and I don't know, lots of how-to kind of questions for around the house.
That sounds really useful. Can you tell me about a specific instance where an AI tool provided you with particularly helpful or maybe even unhelpful information?
I guess I don't remember anything particularly unhelpful, but let's try helpful. So actually one night we couldn't figure out what movies to watch, and so we were asking for recommendations for movies, and I actually thought it was well tailored to what we wanted. We said we wanted action movies that we didn't have to think very much to in this particular case.
Could you please expand on that?
Yeah, well, we were looking, and actually there's so many movies in something like Netflix that we wanted to see like at least what were the sort of top 5 that were available on that platform and then another platform, and which ones had come out recently and were reasonably high rated. So that takes a fair bit of looking around, and so I really like to get something that just saves me some time there.
What factors do you think contribute to your trust in AI tools like the one you used for movie recommendations?
Yeah, in this case, it's not very crucial. So actually, if I didn't get the best recommendation, it's not a big deal. But I like it when I'm doing other things that are more serious to see the source articles, and hopefully they come from reputable sources. That might be an academic paper or maybe a major association like National Cancer Institute, something like that, where it's sort of a trustworthy organization.
Could you please expand on that?
Okay, so actually, normally it actually does a little more dynamic follow-on than it did here, but you can see what it's like to have a sort of voice-to-voice interaction too. I actually think this one does a really good job of following along, and it's one of the most natural in terms of having pauses at the right time or letting you interrupt it, or you saw that I asked it to ask me a different question. So anyway, I want to let you know that these things are possible both in the sort of visual to audio kind of way like this is, or in audio and video, or that other version that's more voice to voice and can also be video as well. So in all of these, excuse me, I could also be sharing my screen as well, or it could send me to, say, a prototype as well. So anyway, I wanted to give you a feel for that. Yeah, if you have any, so think about anything you'd want to ask, like what are the kinds of things that you would want to go after if you had a tool like this? So I'm really interested in knowing what you think would be helpful here. So I'm happy to answer any questions about these kind of things. And let me actually, sorry, I meant to show you this too. So let's go over to a study we've already done. This is actually a link to the study that I sent you to in the link. So I can, first of all, I can create my study, but that's what we're working on right now. Then these tools allow you to connect to either I can create a link and just find people myself, like the link I shared with you, or I can actually recruit from some of the panels, so things like user interviews, so making sure I get this right, Respondent.io, or Prolific are three of the good examples of tools that I might use for recruiting globally. Gosh, there's also one in Australia. It's like Questionly. Anyway, I'll remember it later. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll get it. But really, you can find good people globally with these tools. User interviews actually just expanded beyond, it primarily was English language for a long time, and they've just really expanded sort of globally. So it makes it really, really useful. Okay, so you can create your study. So we saw us do that in a GIF. You can recruit. And then I want to give you a feeling for, you can not only have those sort of exact responses people gave, but I can actually do, many of these has some sort of analysis. So this happens to be Listen Labs, but you can see it's got sort of a core, core findings, and what the major, in this case, this was about AI for personal use. So people were using it as a relationship counselor or a personal stylist or a health advisor or a learning companion. And so you can see like some of the major things people found, and it basically gives you a summary more or less right there. You heard these things ask me about trust in AI, so it's giving me in things about that. So basically I've got one piece of this as a summary. Another piece is that it's got this ability to discuss your data with, it's sort of a chat with your data. So in this case, let's see, what were the qualities? Okay, I'm just trying to come up with a question here. So I've got, what were the qualities of an ideal personal assistant? I'll try to make this a little bigger for you. And so it's just chugging away here, but I want to say that effectively we can ask it anything really about the study. And the key point is the better tools, this is why I'm showing you this one, have links straight to the transcripts. So if I wanted to know where that came up, I have the video and I have the transcript right here. So I can decide, did people really say that or not? And we do actually look at these. So it's a good first step to have these summaries from AI. And then we definitely dive in and make sure that they're really appropriate. You start to get an intuition of when it might be more likely to be accurate or not. But we're always, sort of trusting but verifying all the time. The other thing that I think saves so much time is you can do this thing where you basically ask for a set of quotes that are relevant to a topic. So let's see. Oh yeah, so this one here is like, how did people want, what sort of systems do they want integrated with their personal AI? So let's just take a quick look here. If this takes too long, I'll stop and just keep us going, but let's see.
Hope my privacy would be ensured and taken care of.
I don't want an AI to connect with other systems I use.
AI could automatize this process and just send me reminders or something like this.
I would think there will be more, it'll be more efficient in a way. Essentially, I think if I can just say like what I'm doing now, like telling the AI to do this, and then it automatically help me register.
Okay, so you can see there's a mixture here of like some people saying I don't want to integrate with anything, other people saying I want it to sort of automatically do stuff. So it may not be a perfect grouping here, but what you can do is you can like take some quotes out, or you could focus on other things. But the key point is you can basically search for quotes. You can create a new clip. And I don't know about you, but if you have like 90 interviews and then at some point you say, oh yeah, did anyone ever mention this? And you're like, oh God, I've got to go through 90 interviews. It is so nice to have that kind of thing available. So anyway, I wanted you to know that and to know that that's totally possible. Okay, cool. I think that's about all I wanted to show you. It's kind of remarkable that it can do these kind of reporting things like slides. You can chat with your data and then pull out clips. I think it's great. So we never find it perfect, but it's actually saving us a lot of time overall. So anything else I wanted to say there? No, I think really just going back to this, I wanted to make sure that you really thought about, definitely we want you to test your tool like I was just doing to make sure, generally folks want a shorter study with this than you might do human to human. And we want to make sure there is few of the follow-on questions as like with dynamic follow-ons as possible, so it doesn't get sort of tedious for people. We try and also try to make sure we give a lot of context to the tool, and yeah, keeping this mixture of questions is actually helpful. So anyway, hopefully that gives you exposure to this. You all have been very mild-mannered and not too many questions this time. So if you have any questions, leap out. But otherwise, I just wanted to say I'd be delighted to have you in our class as a Maven Top 100 class. And just remember, actually, not everyone is getting this super big discount. So you can go grab it. I'm willing to let you share with other folks. And so just grab a screenshot or just write down that 40-off-flash and you can grab it. So Lori, you're very welcome. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. And otherwise, I'll try to keep us approximately to our half hour and let us all go. So let me see here. Just making sure I'm not missing anything else. Oh, I think we're pretty good. Cool. Well, thank you, and I'd be delighted to have you learn more. You know, even if it's not with me, I really do want you to keep diving into prompt engineering. I think it's really helpful for us. Yeah, Sabine, you're very welcome. I want you so obviously you've learned about the possibilities with AI moderated interviews, but I want you to give it a try, understand its sort of strengths and weaknesses, and just remember, all these AI tools are the worst they'll ever be. So even if you're not ready to use like maybe it's not appropriate because you're in healthcare or other situations, I want you to think about maybe in a year from now, how much better will these things be and where might you use them in that case? The same with AI analysis. So I really want you to be curious, but skeptical. And so we try to put these things to the test. We're scientists, right? I'm a cognitive scientist, so I want to make sure that you test these things and have an informed position. Same with this notion of having simulations of users, so like synthetic users or synthetic experts. I think they're actually really have a real potential to be valuable. They're a new tool in your toolkit. So please do keep learning. And I think that's really it. I just wanted to say that, you know, in my case, I give each person personal time with me, and we also do live sessions, and I give you homework so you can really try specialized tools, try prompting that you could do without ever having to purchase any of these tools, and really just make sure you can have an overall method to sort of rethink your whole research process with AI. So that's the goal of the class, and I actually, please look at the reviews of the class. I think they're appropriate. And no, I just want to say thank you so much. And have a great day, everyone.